Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud, and I hope you're well. Hope you've had a good week. I am recording this from London today, and it's absolutely blooming freezing, but apart from that, I've been very good. And lovely listeners and lovely viewers on YouTube, of which now there's more and more hundreds of you, so welcome, hello. It's very exciting, because I have known this woman on and off for a very long time, and we said, I think it was nearly 18 months ago, that I would really love her to come on the podcast because she's an awesome human being. So, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow good people of the Comic Coach podcast, please put your hands together, and other noises are available for the fabulous, the lovely Juls. Hello, Juls.
Hello. And after such a long wait, it is honestly such a pleasure to be here. I've been so looking forward to our chat.
I know, me too. That's because we're both very good at chatting and we're both very good at many different things. So my lovely listeners and viewers, they all like to know, where in the world are you? Now, it looks slightly sunnier, but where are you today?
So I'm down in Dorset, deepest, darkest Dorset, but actually it's very sunny here today. We were down walking along the beach this morning, so lovely.
And for those of you that are listening abroad, Dorset is the southwest of the UK, it's near to where is still my spiritual home, which is Devon. So it's like one county. So most people have heard of Cornwall, but Dorset and Devon, they generally just drive through. And you and I would both be advocates of stopping both of them because they are awesome counties, you know. And how's your week been? Have you been well? Have you been full on? Has everything been good?
Yeah, it's been pretty full on. We're on retreat at the moment, so it's been lovely. Just said goodbye this morning to a group of retreaters, and then later on this afternoon, the next lot will be arriving. So, in the middle.
Everyone listening is going to be like, what is this, Jules? God, she runs retreats? Retreaters? This is already so brilliant and fascinating. But no doubt that will come clear. Now, Jules, as you know, I like to sort of, frame the podcast all around impact and how we have impact and how we've created impact and da-da-da-da. And I ask 6 questions to all of my fabulous guests. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
She's such a pro. She's like, yes. Oh my God, she's got. I mean, you have now upped the ante for every next guest. It's like, did you see what Jules brought?
Or anything? I was just literally like, I need a buzzer.
Now, if you are only listening to this on one of the many platforms that are available, Jules basically has an American or, UK's Got Talent X buzzer. It is. I'm loving your work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay. Question number 1. So when you're ready, press the buzzer because it makes me really happy. Who has had the greatest impact on your life? Yes,
it's
Jules.
Aunt Anne.
Is it what?
Could it be my Aunt Anne?
I think it probably could be.
Northern Irish accent. This may, particularly if I get excited and as we chat more, I do tend to talk quite quickly.
It's fine.
And with the Northern Irish accent, it goes a bit awry. But for me, I think it's actually 2 people. First of all, it's my Aunt Anne, not my real aunt, but my mummy's bridesmaid, and a wonderful, wonderful woman. I grew up on a council estate where the expectation was that at the age of 15 or 16, you left school, you married a local boy, you moved a few streets away, you got a local job, and then the cycle repeated. And that was what I saw. That was what I knew. But my Aunt Anne, broke through all of that. She started off as a secretary, worked her way up, became the HR manager for Belfast City Airport. She drove her own car. My goodness. And so to me, she showed me something else that I could be, somewhere else that I could go. And that to me was just phenomenal.
Yeah. We love Aunt Anne a lot.
I know.
Yeah, I can see, and I can definitely see that. I've got very dear friends that come from from Northern Ireland and things like that, and I think there is that thing, isn't there? And I think for all of us, it's about having people that show that things are different and things that are possible, and we need those. Is that phrase, isn't it? We need those role models. If you can't see it, you don't know that you can be it, and so having someone like Anne must have been like, oh, I could drive my own car. And who was the second person?
The second person was Julie Walters in Educating Rita. So again, university was not on the plans in my estate. I come from a lovely little place in Northern Ireland called Hollywood with one L. Very much a town of 2 halves. the super posh, uber wealthy half, and then my half. And generally, back in the day, in sort of the 70s and 80s, the children from my half didn't go to university. And then I saw Educating Rita with the amazing Julie Walters, of a working class woman who, through her love of books, found a way through, went to talked about these amazing things, met interesting people. And I was like, can that really happen? You know, is that possible? So my Aunt Anne opened the door, and then I think Julie Walters blew the doors off.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think it's that thing, isn't it, of sometimes when we watch a character, and actually it's really interesting, I think you're the first person to talk about an actor and a film as having a really impact, because sometimes there's things that we watch that get into us, you know, and kind of get and go, oh, that is possible. That could be possible. And I think sometimes, you know, one of the things that we all really need is artists and creatives and writers to take us to different worlds to help us know that they exist. So I love that. I also love Julie Walters. And, you know, if you're not UK, I mean, she's done a few sort of global films, but if you're not UK based, go on YouTube, just do yourself a favour and just watch a few Julie Walters things, and you will see one of the most genius, comedic and all-round actors that I think this country's ever had. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
She's definitely like a big person for me. But I think you're absolutely right about the creative thing. As an only child, my way out was the 3 library tickets that I had. Do you remember back in the day when you actually had those tiny little library tickets and they would put them in? And the world of books to me, and poetry and writing, that opened my world exponentially. And I can still remember the first time I read a particular book, or the first time I heard a particular bit of poetry being read. And I'm 55 now, and I still can remember that moment. It really touched me.
And I love as you're saying this, and everyone watching on YouTube will be like, yes, and above your head is a thing that says Penguin Books. It's so beautiful. It's like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Somehow, methinks she might have thought of this. Books are coming out. This is good. Therapist. Right, question number 2, buzzers, ready. What keeps you motivated in what you do? Jules.
Oh, I think I peaked too early there with buzz. What motivates me, I think, is, and you probably know this, Em, because I know that you also run retreats. So I run a retreat company, and it is, and this is going to sound a little bit, I don't really want to swear, but it's sort of a little bit sort of wanky. That's the word I would use. But making a difference to people's lives. I used to work in the corporate world, and I was very much driven by the next job, the next role, the next holiday, the next bonus check, whatever it might have been. And I now found myself in an occupation, in a vocation where I'm genuinely helping people. And I've been doing it for 15 years, and I have not lost the love of making that impact. And when I see the light bulbs, and you probably know this, you know, when you're with your group of people and you suddenly see somebody get something, you sort of see them change almost in front of your eyes. And I'm like, we have facilitated that. We've helped to make that happen. And I love that.
I so hear you. And I think it is, in order to keep ourselves motivated, it is just those moments. It's those moments of deep shifts, of change, of realizations. And like you say, we're there just holding the space, right? Everybody does their own work. But until you go into a space where it's held, it's really hard to do your work. You know, we all need that sort of thing. And it is, you're right. It is that thing of course, it's so that motivational side of it is almost sort of easeful, because it's like, I wonder what light bulb we'll see with this bunch of next retreaters coming in later on this afternoon for you. You know, it's always that thing. So yeah, that's a very good answer. Very good. Gold star. Right. Question number 3. Question number 3. How do you play?
Is this getting annoying yet?
No, it's brilliant. Jules Dorset.
Dorset.
Yes, I now feel like we're on University Challenge, which is because it's particularly the same thing. So I'm just like, Jules Dorset College. Finally, who knew you were going to come on a podcast? You'd be like, actually, this is actually the podcast where I'm going to be like, not only on a podcast, I'm also going to be on University Challenge. That is what we have created. Anyway, back to question number 3. Jules Dorset, how do you play?
So this is, I'm really wanting to talk to you about play because I do play and I'm a huge advocate of play. And we talk about play on our retreat because I read a really interesting article. So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a women's wellness coach. That's kind of my thing. And about 10 years ago, I read a really interesting article that said that the opposite of depression isn't rest or calm, but rather it's play. Because play changes our physiology and play changes our psychology. And it was one of those, like arrow thing sort of moments. And I thought, at that point, I was like, play? What is this concept of play of which I am reading? And I really then kind of did a bit of a dive into play. And this because we were talking about it just recently on retreat. And oftentimes when I'm talking to women about play, they tell me about their competitive pursuits. So they play bridge, they play squash, they play golf. But there is a purpose of getting better, beating somebody. And my view on play, and I'd love to hear what you think, is that play is purposeless except for the action of play. Just being in play. And I'd love to hear what you think.
I think it depends. So I've identified, it's going to be my second book, kids, which is going to be published soon. I've identified that there's 12 ways that adults play. And competitive play is definitely one way that some people choose to play. But then you also have, movers. So they might just love moving their body, but they're absolutely not interested in competition. So quite often when you ask people, how do you play? People go, oh, it's games or it's sport and it's got to have competitive. Otherwise, it's not actual play. Whereas for me, play is any activity or a state of being rather than just an activity where you're fully focused on that one thing for that one period of time and you have a sense of joy with it and there's a sense of fulfillment. So one of the ways that people do actually play is, and this is the one that quite often is revelatory to people, one of the ways that people play, it's not how I play, is organisers. And these are the type of people that love a spreadsheet. They get real joy. And I know that you aren't, because you're not kind of going, oh yeah, that's me. I actually know you well enough to know that that's not you. Yeah, glaze over. You were like that. Organiser? Huh? But honestly, when I have shared this with people and shared these 12 ways of playing, big conferences and things like that, I have genuinely had hundreds of people going, that is how I play. I love it. Because it's that, to play is to be human, right? And as kids, we all do know how to play. But if you even go back and you think of a bunch of 3 and 4 year olds, they would all be playing differently, but they would all be playing. And then as adults, I think we get scared about trying new ways of play because we think, oh, I'm a sporty one, I'm a maker, or I'm a musician, or I like producing things. Whatever is your way of playing, we kind of put ourselves in these boxes. And for me, one of the kind of the fundamentals of my work is actually helping and showing people that you can play in different ways. And it's good to be curious to try different things, especially if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, because you might have made a decision in your 20s going, I don't like making stuff. But your 40-year-old self might. And I think when we do allow ourselves to play, what it does, as you said, with that quote from that book, it changes our physiology, it changes our state. Does it mean that the rest of the world has changed? No. But does it mean that you've changed? Yeah. And that, for me, is why play has to be prioritized and really put into ourselves.
Yeah. I totally agree about prioritizing play. And when I talk about it on retreat, I get a lot of women are like, what are you talking about? I'm a busy woman. I have lots to do. I have got time for play. That's not who I am. And so encouraging them to actually understand why it's beneficial and how they can play, I think it's so important. So how do I play? It's funny you say about your play changes through time, because at school, I would have said I was not artistic.
Right.
I can't draw couldn't draw a straight line without a ruler. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided that I would get in touch with my artistic side. And as I always do, I went and bought loads of stuff because I didn't know where to start. And I just thought, buy a load of stuff, bring it home. And I am still rubbish. I'm not good at it, but I love it. I love getting all my colours out. I've sat at the side of watersides and tried drawing clouds and painting. And I can lose myself for an hour or so.
Amazing.
And I'm not intending, like, if I keep practicing this, I could get good. I'm not aiming for that. I'm just aiming for the enjoyment of being in the moment, as you say. Love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You know, all of us were rubbish at walking, but we had to learn through play how to learn how to walk, right? And I think as adults, we get so fixated on, well, if I'm not good at it, what's the point? And actually, one of the things is, you know, if you enjoy it, that's the point. You know, not all of us are going to become professional artists or professional comedians or professional retreat hosts or professional doctors, right? But it's that thing of just allowing ourselves that beat to go, how can I let myself play a little bit more? And I wonder what difference that might make in terms of how I feel, you know? And so I think, you know, I love the fact that you are allowing yourself just that permission just to play, right? Because that's the whole point, right? You know, lovely. You're doing excellently. That was a brilliant answer. We're now going to seamlessly move on to question number 4. So buzzer's ready, because we know that we've got a lot of competition here, you know, and everything else like that. Okay. What is one action that you have taken in the last year that has impacted your life? Jules, Dorset University.
So in the last year, wow. Okay. So my last year has been a bit of a freaky situation. I had been diagnosed with a particular medical condition 3 years ago. Turned out that was an incorrect diagnosis. And last year I got a better diagnosis, but it resulted in me having to have spinal surgery. And my surgeon said, if you don't have this surgery, you could end up quadriplegic in a week, a month, a year, or a decade. We don't know, but there's serious things happening in your neck and we need to go and cut bits of it out. And I sort of came away thinking, there must be another way. You know, perhaps there's an injection they can do. Perhaps they can do this. And I had to take a leap of faith and trust the chap that I had found to basically cut away the back of my neck. And I almost felt like I had no choice, but of course there was still choice. But I do feel that was quite brave of me, because I think the impact that has had, which meant that I've had to step away from cooking. I've had to step away from everyday activities that I used to enjoy that I can no longer do. I've had to slow everything down, which was very outside of my mental comfort zone. And it's a bit of a strange one, because it almost happened rather than me went out and searched for something. But we lent into it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, well done for having had it and found the right person and things. And I think there's a thing, isn't there, about, you know, our health and how we are, and how it's very easy to take this. I'm showing my body in case, you know, in case you're not, if you're just listening, you know, but it's very easy to take our health. And if we are lucky enough to have been born able-bodied, it's very easy to take it all for granted. And I think it's really interesting hearing how this gave you that beat in that period of time to slow down, you know. And I remember a couple of episodes ago, I was talking to Susan, and she'd had breast cancer. And she said it was one of those things that really made her stop and take a beat about what really matters and things like that. And I think sometimes these things we don't get to choose. And I think for you and I, especially in the space when we're holding people and we're challenging them, it's almost like you want to be in a place where you are making the choices which will impact you, rather than just going along, you know. And I think it's, you know, is it recovered? Is it better? Are you feeling
and that's the
on
thing.
the way?
On the way, but when the surgeon told me that the recovery would be a year, he said the first period would be sort of 3 to 6 months, and then up to a year. And I was like, I think you'll find that'll be for other people. I am highly convicted. I am quite fit and healthy. I shall bounce back in weeks, my good man. Wait till you see. No, turns out he knew what he was talking about. And that also has been quite the learning curve of you can't rush biology. It takes how long it takes.
Yeah.
And you have to do the work, go to the physio, rest, take the tablet, and do all of that good stuff.
It's interesting you say rest, because actually rest is something that keeps coming up on this pod about moments and impact. And one of the things that, as I've been doing some research for my book, is, it's only really in the West that we don't prioritize rest. We're like, got to get on, must do this, go there, as you said, corporate world. It's like, but even people that don't work in corporates, there is a pace about the Western world. And it's like, I wonder what impact it would have on all of our lives if we just allowed ourselves a bit more time for rest.
I had hoped that post-COVID, that would have been the shift that we all needed to reprioritize. But from my experience, from what I'm seeing of the women that I'm meeting again, years down the line, post-COVID, post-lockdown, is that we've all slipped, many of us have slipped back into our old way, treadmill-y kind of, one of our clients called the hamster wheel of hell. So, you get into it and it has a momentum of its own and you hang on. And then you get spun out, you go for a couple of weeks holiday and then you jump back in again and it spins again.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely witnessed that across the board with everybody that I'm working with. And I think what's actually really scary for me is that I actually think we've got worse, because what's happening is we're now working in this hybrid world. And so those people that are working from home are, there's none of the sort of interventions that were happening during COVID, where it's like, everybody take a dance break, everybody go for a walk. There's none of those are happening anymore, because we've gone back to this, we're now just all back at work and we've all to carry on. And I think as a sort of bunch of people, I think we really missed, there was a real opportunity in it. It kind of saddened me that we didn't think about, we should have had a day or maybe a couple of days of just mourning the life that we lost through COVID. And, like when you think when the Queen died, now obviously this isn't about being a royalist or not being a royalist, but when she died, we had 10 days of national mourning. So meetings were cancelled. I was going to be a keynote at a conference. It was all cancelled because it was like, we need to acknowledge that the head of state, whether you like it or not, had died. And I thought, well, hang on a second. We all, as a whole human race, had that same experience. And there was never a beat where we went, should we make this the National Day of Remembrance for COVID, for all of the hundreds of thousands of people that died, just to take that beat? Because I think if we all took a beat, we'd then go, oh yeah. And then I think what you were hoping for would probably be a bit more likely was going to happen,
Yeah, I think maybe some people, but I have made a change. They realized that they didn't want to go back to their old way of being, and they maybe have made a change. But I know, living in the Southwest, when lockdown happened, there was a mass exodus. Everybody left London, Manchester, and they all went to the coast and what have you. And now those properties are coming back up for sale because everybody's like, now I'm going back to the office. Now I'm going back to my old life. We did the couple of years by the coast. Not really for me. Off I go again. And I just think that, it's a bit of a shame. It's not for everybody, the life of the, being out in the sticks. But, I think some people maybe just have rushed back to the old ways.
Yeah, I just don't think at the moment, I don't think us human beings are making particularly smart decisions. But that's for a deep political conversation, which obviously we're not going to have today on the Comic Coach podcast. So question number 5. How do you take care of yourself? Jules Dorset.
Thank you. And I'm doing quite well at this game.
You're doing excellent. So far, you are answering all the questions. You are definitely the fastest person on the buzzer. It's brilliant.
Fastest finger. So 2 things that I do that probably won't surprise anybody who knows me. First one is I'm in therapy. So I am a therapist, but I'm also in therapy. And I find that has such a huge positive impact on my overall sense of well-being. And it took me a long time to find the right person. I've dabbled in the past, and then I found somebody who was the right person. You know, the old story, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Well, my teacher appeared, and it's been really transformative having that opportunity. I go weekly now, to have my space, my time to just be. And so that's really important to me. And it's also sacrosanct. Doesn't matter what else is going on, that is ring fenced. You know, very rarely I cancel that appointment. Like 99.9% of the time I'm there. That's really important to me. So that would be the first one. And my second one is sea swimming, or should I say sea swimbling, because I'm not necessarily a swimmer. I'm more of a swimbler.
I love that phrase. I've got this idea of like loads of you just kind of bimbling around in the sea going, we're a sea swimbling, do, 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 do. And all just having the most delicious time.
Exactly what happened.
I promise.
During the summer months, I will do a little bit of the old swimming, and I love it. And I'll set myself little goals along the coastline here. I'll be like, I shall swim to that house and then turn around and swim back. But through the winter, because I swim all year round, I just get in and I bob about and swimble a little bit and let the cold water do its thing. And
amazing.
Evangelical I am.
And I think it's thank you for sharing both of those with us, because I think it is so important. And I think quite often people who are therapists, who are, you know, coaches, you know, holders of others, you know, every regular listener will know, you know, I've got a team M and one of those people is a therapist. And it's that thing of, and what I find so fascinating is that I quite often get, oh yeah, but Em, you seem like you're really happy. And I'm like, because I continue to go to therapy. I continue to do because actually the beautiful time of knowing that you have that regular space, as you say, where it's all about you, means that stuff doesn't then, I don't know, it doesn't have to become to crisis point, because you're always working on who you are, best things, what's the drivers, and life throws challenges at us. Just because we might be trained in various different modalities and good at holding other people doesn't mean that we don't have our own challenges. But I also think it's so important, because it's really good to remember how it feels to be on the other side of the chair, you know? So, yeah. And, you know, sea swimming, I'm all for. You guys carry on. I hate the cold, so you can just carry on doing it. I'm not up for that. I like the warm. I not like the cold at all. Do not like it. Not going to do it. So finally, on the quickfire quiz, of which you have been answering all the questions, and so far you've managed to answer them all very effectively. Question number 6. What have you been thinking about in the last couple of days? Jules, Dorset.
Jane Fonda.
I mean, that's the best answer I've ever had. Why?
Well, and again, we're not going to go down a deep political route, but there are parts of the world that I feel are going backward. And the beautiful Jane Fonda, who is my total crush, absolutely stunning human being, gorgeous, amazing actress, did a speech just recently at the SAG Awards where she had a call out and said, you know, this is our Stonewall. This is our Selma. This is our time. We have to stand up and be counted. And I'm just like, Team Jane, Team Jane,
Team Jane, Team Jane, Team Jane. Team
so,
Jane. I love it.
I've been loving that.
I'm going to make sure that in the show notes, I put the link to that talk so that people can watch it in that little speech, because I never thought that anybody would be like, what do you think about the last couple of days? Jane Fonda. That is, you know, firstly, I was like, she's still alive, isn't she? That's where my brain went. I went, oh, yes, she really is. She's doing like awesome things like that. You know, it's amazing. Yeah. Oh, goodness me. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And you have now completed the 6 questions. And Jules from Dorset, you are officially the winner of the University Challenge that isn't the University Challenge, because we do not want to get done for copyright reasons. But she has just done very well, which is excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I mean, there are millions of questions I could ask you, but there is just one that I really want to just get your take on. Now, you've been holding hundreds of women, probably even by thousands by now, in terms of the retreat and things. When you kind of look at them all as a whole, what does them coming on retreat, how does that really impact them? Because I think lots of people go, oh, I'd love to go on a retreat, but for some reason they never find the time. They don't want to spend the money on themselves. This is women and men, but women are particularly bad at spending money on ourselves. So I'm just curious, as somebody that's held, you know, thousands of people, if there was one, there might be a couple, but if there was something that you went, you know what, that's the biggest impact that I consistently see, what would it be?
I think for us, so we are a health retreat, but it is a health retreat in that it's both physiology and psychology. It's not just, about kind of doing exercise and stuff like that. So,
but hang on a second. Is our mind connected to our body and also connected to our soul? What is this?
And do you know this? What madness do you speak here?
Oh, I do not know. Hang on, the buzzers aren't going now. We didn't know this. What? Amazing.
But for us, it's very much about the mental piece as well. And so we were talking about this morning on retreat of the women who come back to us. They come back to us because it is an opportunity to be nurtured. And in that space, they grow, they develop, they reclaim, they reconnect to whatever is important to them at that time. There's no doctrine, there's no one size fits all. But they love the fact that, particularly the women who come to the body retreat, they are, smart, intelligent women. They run businesses, they have good jobs, they run households, they're part of their community. They are very much involved women. And then sometimes they're just like, oh, what about me? And they feel a little guilty about the what about me question. And they come to us and we are like, just drop your keys, drop your bag, come into this space and let us guide you, facilitate, show you, support you, care about you. And they connect to that.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think if you're listening to this and you've been pondering the idea of going on a retreat, and of course there are countless different kinds of retreats, and it's that thing of take this being your little sign of now is the time to go and book it, and if you're like, oh, well, I'm really full on, I haven't got any time this year, book it for next year, but it's that thing, isn't it? Because I love that idea of, just being able to reclaim ourselves. Yeah, love it. Jules, I could talk to you for hours, but I am aware of your time and, of course, my good listeners' time. So how do people find out more about Jules and her books and her swimbalene? But more importantly, probably how they could come and hang out with you and learn how to swimble, because I think that should be a course if it's not already.
So we are the Body Retreat. I'm not saying we as in I sort of have a dual personality, but we are a team. We have a lovely little website on which there is a fabulous little blog called the Conscious Cooking Blog, where there are over 300 tasty, healthy recipes for every taste bud out there. So I'd encourage you to go and look at that. You can also come and find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, even a little Facebook. Does anybody still do Facebook? We're still there. And we share a little bit about what our philosophy is around. We are a women's health retreat. That's one thing I would say. We're by women, for women. That's an important factor for us. But we share a bit about who we are, what we believe, what we stand for. And then we leave it to people to decide, are we right for them? Because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of retreats out there. There is a retreat for everybody. So, be curious, go explore. What do you need right now? And connect to that.
Jules, thank you so much. I knew it was going to be a joy. It has been. And can I just say, every other guest is now not going to have such a good buzzer. So, worryingly, at sort of episode 20 something, I've already worried that I'm now peaked with buzzer gates. So I'm putting that out there for future guests. If you're listening to this, you've got to try and match Jules. Jules, thank you so much for coming on the Comic Coach podcast.
It was lovely to
spend
time with you. Lovely to spend time with you, Em. And hopefully I'll see you in person again sometime soon.
You would indeed.
Yeah.
Ah, the lovely Jules. It's funny, I think I've known of her for, I think it might even be something like 15 years. Where does time go? No one knows. Really enjoyed that chat. I mean, obviously, I really enjoyed the buzzer. Obviously, that really did enjoy. And I've also really enjoyed how long my hair is throughout this. Do not fear. No, not that any of you were, but do not fear. My hair is actually going to get cut on Sunday. I don't know what that is about. Anyway, it's not about my hair. It's about the hair. How did that land with you? I really, 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 really hope that the idea of having a retreat for yourself at some point in 2025 has just been planted as a seed. This isn't because I used to run retreats a long time ago. And as you know, I recently ran one in Lanzarote, which was great. And it's not just because I've recently done one that I think it's so important. I've always thought that going away from our world and not just going on holiday can be a really important gift in terms of how we then show up in the world, in terms of, how we impact the rest of the world, right? Because the thing about retreats by their very nature, and as Jules said so beautifully, there's health retreats, there's, the spiritual, anyway, you all know what retreats are, right? But the thing about them is that it just gives you that space. It just gives you that beat, that moment where, as long as it's well run, you don't have to think about anything that you normally have to think about. Like, oh, have I got to put the washing on? Have I got to clean my clothes? All of that stuff is taken care of. Or you just have a week's lot of clothes and then you get home and do lots of washing. But you know what I mean, right? Like your food's taken care of. Your, the basic things are sorted for you. So you don't have to think about anything other than yourself. And I think currently, it strikes me that the world is in a pretty challenging place for many reasons. And it strikes me that never has it been more important that we spend time on our parts of ourselves that perhaps merit and deserve some attention. And to give it attention requires energy and commitment. And if we want to shift how we're impacting the world, if we want to shift how you feel about yourself first and foremost, I think a retreat it's almost like the quickest way of rebooting yourself. Or it's the quickest way, I don't really want to use the word rebooting because we're all talking about AI and everything else like that. But it's the quickest way of coming home to yourself. That's better. So, do check out Jules and her retreat. It's been running a long time, super successful. They get loads of people going back because it just works. And do just take a moment. If you're listening to this and you've gone, I've been saying I'd go and do a retreat for quite a long time. Maybe now's the time to book it. Maybe now's the time to go, what do I need? What do I need in order to help me feel better? There you go. Another episode of the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. She was brilliant. I don't know why my voice went so high then. It was like, then the voice of it. That's because I'm doing loads of vocal warm-ups for my show, but that's a whole other story. So no, obviously I'm now doing all of those different things. Right, I'm going to stop talking. You've all been brilliant. Thanks for listening to the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. Catch you next week. Take good care.